Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. This is Dr. Blakeney and today we're on the USS North Carolina battleship located in Wilmington, North Carolina, built in 1940, used from 1941 until it was decommissioned in 1947, and had about 2,300 people on it. Let's look at all those people, what they did, what it did when it was in a battle, and all the different jobs. In battle, this thing was impressive. Let's start by looking at the propeller and just how giant it is. Then we'll go to the engine. Look at some of the guns on the ship. It actually had these float planes. The anchor is absolutely gigantic. They used a flag system to communicate with each other, but also with other boats on the ship. Maybe I'll make a video about that later. They had a bunch of these whale boats, which were used for daily use, but also for rescue if they needed them. And finally, you had all the different artillery that was up to 20 inches wide and had a range of many, many miles. Alright, next we're going to look at some of the interesting parts of living on a boat this large. There were 2,300 people on board, all different types, and let's talk about, first we'll look a little bit at the beds that they stayed in, and they folded up. They got paid, and when they were paid, they could spend their money in different ways. They could get ice cream, they could go to the canteen and buy themselves something. To eat, they would go to the galley, and I'm going to show you a little example of what they ate on Thanksgiving of 1942. All around the ship, we saw water fountains, and they called them scuttlebutt. You might have heard one of your grandparents talking about scuttlebutt. That came from these water fountains where gossip would be spread around. So if you hear about gossip, you might hear the word scuttlebutt, and that's where it comes from. The toilets were not very private, but of course this ship had 2,300 people. They were all male, so no women's bathrooms. There was a sick ward. They would occasionally show movies to the men. They also had a area where they would have like that athletic equipment where they might host a boxing night, or I saw some baseball bats, stuff like that. And then on Sundays, you could go to a service, and there was a chaplain on board. So these are some of the different activities they would do when they weren't working. Finally, we're going to talk about some of the jobs on a ship. With 2,300 people, you had to have a lot of different jobs. You had a warrant officers, which were like police. You had the people that worked the canteen and the soda fountain. You had barbers that would cut hair for all the men on board. You could really only get one haircut, and I read that there were wildcat or illegal barbershops on the side. You had people that sewed uniforms, cobblers that fixed shoes, a pretty substantial laundry service, which was different for officers who were able to get their uniforms pressed or ironed, and the enlisted men. You had people that ironed, you had printers, you had a dark room where they developed film, you had the mail service for incoming and outcoming mail, you had garbage, and they would shred the garbage up and put it out to sea. In the kitchen, you had the butcher, you also had a baker, you had an incinerator who took the materials that were classified, burnt them, and then they would put them in water and throw them off the ship. You had a whole medical and dental team. You had divers that would check the boat. You had x-ray technicians. You had a machine shop to fix all the different machines that were on there. You had the coders, you had the officers, you had the captain, and you also had all of the men who were on the ship to defend it or to go on the offense. So all the different jobs that related to the artillery. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tour of the USS North Carolina. It's probably the most impressive military ship I have been on. And if you ever get to Wilmington, North Carolina, I would highly suggest that you go visit it. And if not, I will see you in the classroom soon. Take care.